In the 8th grade, I was in a PE class and was asked to run a mile and a half. Now, being my smart aleck and disrespectful self, I turned to the instructor, who was a middle-aged, slightly overweight woman, and I said, "I'd like to see you run a mile and a half." That didn't end well for me, and ended up running a lot more than a mile and a half because of the disrespect that I showed this instructor. And yet here I am many years later, and I still believe and I still deeply feel that we should be an example of whatever it is we're teaching. Welcome to Health Ed with Cougar. Today we're talking about modeling. You might be familiar with the term modeling. It comes from social learning theory. Dr. Albert Bandura coined this term. And essentially what it means is that we can learn, as individuals, that we can learn a certain behavior by simply observing that behavior in someone else. And moreover, by observing the consequence of that behavior in someone else's life. Maybe the best way to explain this is to use a quotation that's often, I think we give credit to Albert Einstein for this particular quote. I think he said, the 3 best ways to teach are: number 1, example; number 2, example; and you guessed it, number 3, example. So you get the point, that we need to be an example of what we teach, and that young people have to be able to look at us and see that we're happy and that we're healthy and that we're well adjusted, that we enjoy our life, and moreover that we're relatively fit and we're relatively good communicators and have relatively good relationships in our lives, and we're pretty darn good at managing stress, and so on and so forth. All the things that we might teach in a health education classroom. I have 2 things I want to share with you today. Both are manuscripts for which I was a lead author on, and I'll put those in the description below, and you can also find those on my website, cougarhall.org. The first was kind of a fun one. It was a pilot study with elementary teachers. And elementary teachers are notorious for not having time and bandwidth in their curriculum for health education. There's so many things. We are testing and assessing the heck out of elementary students, and there's so much pressure on those teachers that oftentimes health is the first thing to go. So what we decided was, what if we just use this modeling approach? What if we just ask teachers to be an example? Would that impact the behavioral intentions of the students? So what we did was we first started with a pretest, and we asked the elementary students to indicate their intent to eat a healthy diet and to engage in regular physical activity. Then for 12 weeks, we asked the teachers at this particular school every week to write a physical activity goal and a nutrition goal, and we also included a lifelong learning goal at the request of the principal. And we put these goals on what we called a goal board. So every teacher in the school had on their wall in their classroom a goal board. And on each Monday, the beginning of each week, they would simply write out their nutrition goal for the week, their physical activity goal for the week, and of course their lifelong learning goal for the week. As students came in and they welcomed them back to school for the week, told them what they were doing today, they just took a moment and said, "Oh, by the way, class, here are my goals for the week. Here's my nutrition goal, here's my physical activity goal," so on and so forth. No specific health instruction. In fact, in most of these classrooms, there was no health ed curriculum whatsoever. That's all they did was set a goal and share it with their students. 12 weeks later, we came back, we did a post-test with the students, again asking and measuring their behavioral intention to engage in physical activity and maintain a healthy diet. And we found that just observing their teachers set goals and work towards accomplishing the goals had a significant impact on the students' behavioral intentions to eat better and to move more and exercise more. Pretty cool. The second paper that I want to share with you is simply a concept note, which is detailing ways that we as health educators might model the national health education standards. Now, if you're not familiar with the National Health Education Standards, or you need a refresher course, I've got multiple videos that address that particular topic, and you can check on the website. Essentially, we have 8 national standards that should guide our curriculum in health education. The first has to do with knowledge expectations, what we call core concepts, content knowledge that students should be familiar with. And of course, the remaining 7 are all skills-based, skills that students should develop and practice. And regardless of the content that you're teaching, these are skills that are cross-cutting throughout all of the units that you might teach. So for example, communication skills or goal-setting skills. Whether you're teaching substance abuse prevention or you're teaching sexual health, you're likely going to tap into a communication goal or an advocacy goal or certainly goal setting. So that's kind of a refresher real quick of the National Health Education Standards. The paper that again I will include below in the description, it just provides suggestions for how you and I may actually model each of those national standards in our classroom. So hopefully that's helpful for you. The bottom line and what I really want to get to is that we need to be an example of what we teach. And again, you think of your favorite lessons. You think of the most important concepts and skills that you're teaching your students. And maybe it is communication, and maybe it is stress management, or maybe it is something to do with mental and emotional health. Are you an example of that? That is one of the most important things you can do. I think in all of my years working with young people, if I had to say, what's the thing that bugs them the most? I think it would be hypocrisy. I think young people they have no patience for those who say one thing and do another, especially the adults in their life. They really expect you to be consistent, to do what you say and say what you do and so on and so forth. So we need to model those health behaviors that we're teaching. Now, I don't think we need to make it look easy because quite frankly, it's not easy. We do have stress in our lives. We don't have a lot of discretionary time to engage in physical activity or self-improvement. And it's difficult to do those things. So let your young people see that. Let them see that it's hard, but that you haven't given up. Let them see the determination and the dedication in you to continue to improve your health and achieve the health outcomes that we all know are important for us. That's your thought for the day. I know you can do this. Don't recoil in guilt or shame. Just set a goal yourself. I'm going to improve in this area, and I'm going to open my life up just a little bit so students can see that. They can see what I'm working towards. You got this. See you next time.